Cool. So this persistent level, a couple things about arranging everything. You have your windows you can bring up and down. This, let's see. There we go. So most people would probably have like a window here on the left side. I got rid of it just to make more space. So we're going to talk about levels and managing levels. This, I dock it right here. If we do, there it is. Right? So you can bring up levels and put it in where you want to. And if I hide everything, we've got nothing here. And if I want to confirm that there's nothing in there, I can say, only show me what's in the current level. The current level is completely empty. Perfect. We're at the right starting point, and we're going to work with P main WC. All right. And you saw there that these are already loaded. But then we might have this issue, right, where they're going to the city loaded up and the Earth loaded up, and once we have a million different things, it might be too slow to start up. So let's just start off by hiding everything. So let's see what cinematics I have in here already. Nothing. Even though I'm calling it the master, we're pretty much just doing a level sequencer. Master is something else where it's going to, I'll show you, it's going to create a bunch of stuff. This is not how we're going to work, since we're kind of working the other direction, where we're going to be. This is more about doing production and like shooting things, and we're creating the content and then importing it in. So we're just going to do a regular level sequencer to start off with, but it'll be our master. And I can make a folder under assets for sequencers if that's fun for you. And we'll call this main master. And I keep the word sequencer in there so we can search for it and the outliner. Main master sequencer. Sequencer. Cool. And then this is our only thing in here. And I like to keep my sequencers at the very top. So I'm going to put it in a folder called, like, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to make it 00, so it's always at the very top alphabetically, and this will be my sequencers. I'll also probably make, like, another folder for, if I put in a camera, I'll probably start a camera folder. What if do I show what I did? Yeah, so I did cameras under 00, sequencers under 01. I was doing live show control, so all my live coding was done in there, and that was for me to easily find the things I was using the most. This is just something I kind of invented. So if we want to, we can just rename this to keep it consistent. We'll start our new style guide of how to do crazy stuff. So sequencers are 01. Cameras will be 00. Great. And then in here, we'll start our level visibility tracks. Okay? Over here, referring to this wonderful document, I see that we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially 6 different sequences. So I'm going to say level visibility track, and I'm going to keep them all paired. Rename, we call this one 01, or sequence 01, and we can give it like some sort of other title when we come up with like what the theme is. Like, we know this is home world or something. We can do that as we go along. So sequence 01, sequence 02, and we don't want to be visible, we want to be hidden. So as I'm copying these, I might as well make everything right to start off with. Okay, copy paste, sequence 02, sequence 03, and so on and so forth. Let us just do these for right now. And everyone's welcome to continue to adjust these as we go around. Great. I don't know if we could just do this. Copy paste. Okay. Too much fun. Sequence 04 and sequence 05. So, Jushin, is the streaming level camera you?
Yes.
Okay. And this was something you wanted to have throughout the entire project?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know this.
Okay, so what we'll do is, for right now, I'm not gonna hide it then, and we'll deal with it as we want to, because we might have we might have cameras in every single level. But what I'm saying is, like, this is fine for right now. But we want to start off with having the city and the earth hidden. So to bring those in, we just make an array, and unfortunately it is a handwritten thing, so we have to make sure it's case sensitive. So city and earth. So as people load their maps into the master, we just remember to make sure you put it into the right sequence that it goes into. So going back to the document, we can confirm space earth. Okay, so I'm wrong. City actually goes into the next one. Not a problem. And you can read it there, what it's in. So I'll just take this and I will delete city. And we'll put city here. So now if I try to turn them on, they won't turn on. Let's see if I start scrubbing it. Yeah, see, everything turns off. And this keeps our project sane. As you show, what's in your camera level?
Actually, there's another sequencer.
Okay.
And it's the same as this one, so it's similar.
Okay, we can clean that up later then. As long as I'm not messing up your stuff, then we're good.
You can remove that.
Okay. You don't need any of these?
No, they have a file sitting somewhere else.
So what I'll do is I'm going to remove this from the persistent for now. How about that?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so this isn't deleting from the project. I'm just removing it from the persistent. Cool. So who else thinks that there is like a map we can go ahead and add to the master?
I guess you could do the desert if you want, but it's in a different level as space and earth.
Cool. Yeah, so we're gonna bring in every single thing into this top level.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna add a desert here, and then we'll just search for it, and it's just what is it called? Is it this one?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, Desert 3.
All right, so Desert 3, which is the one you and I reduced together, right? So it's not the beast that was at one point?
Right.
Okay, so now we bring in the desert, and while it's loading in, we'll take a look at desert, and we see that it's actually in sequence 3. So even though we brought it in, so here we brought it in, and it is blue because it's by default it's being loaded and unloaded by blueprints. We're going to change the streaming methodology to always loaded, and you see now that blue has gone away, and then we can see that it's toggled off and on. It's in sequence 3 because it's case sensitive. I'm going to can't do it there. Come here, and I can be lazy and just copy and paste the text. and we'll put it in here. Great. So you can see how this process goes. You can see this levels is going to start getting pretty convoluted. Going again back to our notes for today, at the very top, you can see how we started prepending again the numbers in front of them to make it easier to find them. Whether I did numbers, Weta did the name of the song, but it could be easier to maybe prepend the names. Let's see real quick. We'll worry about it later on because you can't rename them inside of the levels panel. All right, so obviously this is not the most fun stuff, but it's good to keep things organized, I think. Obviously, one thing we're going to have at the very top is our shots track, and there it is. I went outside of time. You see how it's visible now. I'm going to lock in my cursor always in the playback range, so I can't scrub there, so I don't like accidentally turn on 15 levels and crash my computer. And this looks like a pretty solid sequencer. Going back to the assets and stuff, who was in charge of space and Earth?
I think it was me.
Okay. Hi, Ellen. How's it going?
Hi. I'm in a different time zone.
Oh, where are you?
Taiwan.
Oh my goodness, what time is it?
It's 5
in the morning.
6 in the morning. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm very
Sorry, I was late.
I'm very honored. I'm very happy you made it.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Well, thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
So then it's a good thing we're addressing your work then right now. So do you have so we have Earth right here, and then
Yes.
do you have a map for space too?
I think it's Earth.
So Earth is the space map, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it could potentially be. Let's go ahead and go into it. So I'm going to leave our master now, and go into just space by itself. I'm going to save everything, and let's go into Earth. All right, so space does Earth as well. So this might not have a. It might not have a bottom level. It might not have a level, because as long as we can transition in here, this could be all we need to bring it up into the shots track. So in your Earth, do you have a sequencer here at all?
No.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and add one. And we'll go ahead and call this one, we'll go into our assets and sequencers, and this one will be sequence 01, and maybe we can give it a name later on if we start feeling like it. So the idea is that we're going to start off in space, and we'll zoom into Earth. You have 2 here, right?
Yes.
And what you're doing now is that you have one of them is invisible, or are they inside of each other?
No. I think one of them is invisible. Oh no, it's inside.
So this would be a good case for taking this desert planet, and we know first of all for the first sequence, we don't want it to be visible. So let's go ahead and do a hidden in game track, and say it's hidden in game. Cool. So there we go. That's the first thing to do. And then we were looking at atmospheric fog. This will be something like, this is not a task I want to do during one of these sessions, because it's kind of like, let's go find tutorials and figure out how to do this atmospheric fog. But essentially what we need to do is kind of get to a place where we're like potentially in clouds, right? I think that might be a good transition. Who else have been thinking about transitions?
Me.
And what'd you think?
So we have like frogs here, like blurs and more clear,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
Okay. So you could incorporate that into potentially just put it into the Earth map right now.
Mm-hmm.
We can always separate that out later on if we definitely need a space and an Earth. And of course, as Yushin goes in and maybe Junan goes in and does some cameras, we might find out that we need to spend more time in space than just having a skybox. There could be awesome nebulas. There could be constellations like that. We might want to spend more time in space. But for right now, what I'm going to do is let's make this a 10-second shot. Okay. We're going to go. Right now, it's at 30 frames per second. We can easily just adjust this to seconds, so it makes it easier on us. And we want it to be a 10-second shot. Okay. And then let's just add in a camera move, right? Let's just start off. Let's do a cinematic camera, and we're going to kind of fade in. So let's create a cinematic camera here. So now we're kind of locked into that camera. I'm going to add it to our track. And then we're going to do a movement. Let's start with a keyframe on the transform here for both location and rotation. I don't know if you can scale a camera. And I want to, at 5 seconds in, which I can flat out just say 5 seconds, I want to be done with my rotation. I'm going to say I want to pilot you. So now I'm inside the camera, and I want to also say that whenever I move things around, I want you to keyframe things. So at 5 seconds, I'm going to see the Earth, or whichever planet we are. It didn't do what I told it to do. Let's see. All edits. Yes. There we go. Now we got our keyframe. Boom. So if we go back, there we go. So rotation, a little higher. And I'm just doing this to establish some sort of timeline. Obviously, camera people adjust as you want. But I want it to always continuously be going in and tracking in to the Earth. So let's kind of make it fill the frame. And the pacing of this will really be determined by the music. And even if we don't get final music, if we can get like a beats track, just a tempo or an ambient stuff in here, that'll help us figure out like how quickly we're doing all these things, and then we can easily stretch these keyframes out. So here's our first scene. Moving forward into the Earth. Okay. This gave us our camera cuts. Let's see, it's not sequencer. I'm going to change the name of this one. I'm not going to make any exceptions to the rule. I'm going to make this a, not the sequence, but I'm just going to call it Earth sequence. Which hopefully will update the name when I hit save. We'll see what happens. Okay. So if we go back up to our, gonna make this up as I go along, of course. Let's go back up into our persistent, which now opens up to main master sequence. There we go. Earth is loaded up. We could potentially bring in. Great, it's not a shot yet. Perfect. So we're gonna let's see, create a shot. And
And that should be sequence 01 sequence, the one that you just created.
this one right here.
Yeah.
Cool. Oops, undo. And so this is only 5 seconds long. Let's go ahead and make this timeline a lot longer. And then, of course, as we go along, we'll have to drag these out to infinity. Oops, undo. And you know, this is the kind of stuff you do when you're like trying to think, and you're just like, let's tend to our garden of assets and just make them all nice. All right, so what is our project doing? It is a sequence of one. So what I'm going to do now is I don't want to have this one here. I am going to, let's see if I can clean up my assets. All right, so assets, save all. And sequences, I want to rename this one Earth Sequence. Alright, so Earth Sequence lives inside of the Earth level, but what I do want to create is a, let's see how I do this. Inside of, let's go back to Earth. Levels. Higher. Once we figure out this workflow, then it'll be apparent for the rest of them. We have Earth. And that's loaded here. Let's make another cinematic called, this will be called Sequence 01. I think this is the right thing. Seek 01. Yes. And do we still have the old one? Yes. Okay. Sequencer 01 is going to have a subscene track, and that subscene is Earth Sequence. And then we're going to bring in a camera cuts of Earth Sequence's cinematic actor. We lock in place. We have our opening shot. Cool. And then what I want to do is make sure that Earth is visible. So we're going to start relying on our level visibility tracks. As we talked about, was at this middle level. Was level visibilities. So level visibility. And we'll go ahead and we might have two different groupings. Let's just go ahead and say Earth visibility. In case we end up doing multiple maps for Earth, we want to pair them up in this one. And then we need to just add in the text for Earth. Yes, you're visible. I know. I know. And then Earth. Lowercase. So now you're visible. Great. Let's save everything. And then we'll come back up to our main. And if we bring in our, actually it's always turned off. There we go. And then when we bring in our sequencer, we can now add in our shot for Earth. for sequence 01. And there it is. And because it has a little visibility track, it's visible, and we want to see what the shot looks like. We lock in, and we see it. So we've now done all 3 tiers of the sequencer with Earth. Now I guess this isn't the perfect example because we should have 2 levels that we could be putting together, but this is the workflow. One thing I said I want to do was potentially have an events track. So we would say, obviously this is just 10 seconds. We don't have any music. We don't really know when the track ends. But what we do is kind of zoom in here and say at this keyframe is the end. And then when I can select here, and I can see literally to the 10,000th what my experience is, what my keyframe is. And so at 4.999, or I'm sure at 5, I can skip to the next track, which would be blank. So let's go ahead and show you how that looks in blueprints. This is my persistent level blueprints. And we'll come back to this because I'm sure it's from something. And I want to say on a key press, and I'm just going to use L for level skip. Input L. Jump to time. Jump to time, and we'll use seconds for right now. So at 5 seconds, we'll jump to the end. And I know that when we want to bring a reference to the master. If context sensitive, it knows what I'm selected on inside of my outliner. So with this selected and context sensitive checked on, I could bring in a reference to my main master. And there we go. So if we had the next track we wanted to see, which would be, like the city, we could jump straight to the city and not have to watch the entire Earth. I would hit, let's go to the sequencer, make sure that it plays automatically. You should make sure all your sequencers play automatically. If I want to check this one, I go in here, into the Earth subscene. And make sure that my Earth auto plays. I think that's how it goes. I'll have to check if they all should be not, or they all should be. I think they all should be. And go back up. You see I'm navigating between these different levels. Cool. So now if we hit play, this is our project. Cool. I'm sure you guys saw the little player start. I'm going to unlock my camera. You saw that it had a little sphere right there where the player start is. See that, right? That guy? We can easily just put it inside the Earth. Or what I do is say, on event begin play, go ahead and hide actor. Let me go ahead and bring in the player start. So I can bring in a reference to it. I'm going to get a reference to get player pawn, as we call the camera or the player a pawn, and we're going to say actor hidden in game. Hidden in game, and yes, it is hidden. Oops. And we didn't go over blueprints in the emerging technology class, but for anyone who does a little bit of JavaScript or processing or whatever, you start off in blueprints with these 2 things, which are your event begin play and your event tick. This is kind of like your setup, your void setup or whatnot, and then your event tick is every frame. This will be firing off every frame. It's something that can be CPU intensive if there's a lot of calculations being put on it, but it's also If you're going to be animating things, better do it on sequencer, but you can still animate things off of this should you need to. Tool. So if I hit play, it's no longer there. If I hit L, I jump ahead. Great. So those are all working, and of course, escape makes me escape out of Zoom and not out of the project. Okay, cool. So the next thing is we have our city. Let's take a look at the city by itself. Hide, floating, media controls, yes. So let's look at our document. So do we have a circled industrial rot? Was anyone assigned that? It sounds very tantalizing. It looks like we don't have it. These aren't maybe even in order. Already somebody wasn't assigned to it. So we'll just skip ahead to what we have, and we can always fill in gaps later on. So let's go to the city since that one's ready for us. All right. Clear it up for now. And did we have a sequencer in here? Yes. I'm going to find this one in... Oh, but it doesn't have a reference to it. Uh-oh. What happens if we hit play? This was... Junanda, was there a camera move here? Do you know?
I don't actually remember, sorry.
No problem.
I think I set up like 1 or 2 camera, but I didn't add a sequencer.
Oh, but you do have cameras for...
Yeah, I think there's 1 camera or 2.
Okay, so kind of what I was showing earlier, or how like the group things, I was putting cameras up at the top. So I put cameras under a folder called 00, so I can find them easily. Let me rename you. I'll call this 00 cameras. Cool, there it is. And where's your camera? All right, so this will be definitely in. So what you've done here is you've taken 2 maps, you put them together already. You kind of like you fixed a problem that before it even was a problem, where we would have normally done this as a transition. You already went ahead and made this one map. So what we're going to do is, that's fine. We're going to assume we're going to be coming down a little bit, and because of our limitations of our scene, we'll need to make sure that we stay within a frame that we could see. We don't see the behind the scenes, we don't want to see behind the building. So I'm going to keep us low. And for right now, and again, I'm not trying to be artful or crafty on this one. I'm just going to... Oh, we might have some more. Let's see. Master. Let's see what this is. It's an interesting approach. I'm gonna... Oh, are these inside of camera? Jushin, are these inside of you?
No. It was, but I don't think it works right now, so
Okay.
remove it.
Okay. Thanks for being so easygoing. Everyone hates when work they've done is lost. So now we shouldn't have we should only have this one new level sequence. Just doesn't seem to be connected to anything, so we can start from scratch. We can always reconnect if you guys want to later on. Nothing is destructive. It would take us a couple more moves. But for right now, I'm going to create a cinematic camera right here. And you see that just made a camera. I can right click on it and say, I want to pilot it around. So now I can drive it around. And wherever I leave it, oops, I actually am driving Steam around. I don't even know how that even happens. I'm going to, you checked. I selected the Steam instead of the camera. Alright, now we're driving a camera. Nope, we're driving Steam. That's a good lesson right there. So the Steam is this giant plane that's transparent. You see right there? And I can't get away from it. If you go over to your settings, you could say, don't allow translucent selection. That's also the T button. So now it's been turned off, and I have no problem selecting my camera. If I need to select the Steam, I can select its sprite, or I can hit T, and I can select the bigger thing. Right now I can't select the camera.
Oh.
Alright. I like to have my cameras in a folder, so you can go to here to the bottom and say move to cameras. And now it's organized at the top. And we're going to go to our sequencer. And say level sequencer. Assets. Sequencers. And we'll the close one. City sequence. We might use a different camera for room sequence, so we'll just start with this one. So city sequencer, and then of course I told you guys I'd like to also make a folder for my sequencers at the top. Because once you make them, you'll never have to make these folders again, but it'll be really easy to find them. So 01 sequencers. Alright, let's drop this bad boy in. And let's make the scene. By default, let's make it 10. And then it starts here. I want it to end. Let's go to the end. I want it to end at 10 seconds near the window. Let's pilot it over to the window. Is this the one? No. Is this the one? No. Where?
It's the one at the end of the road.
It's over here. Yes. So it's right here. So I'm gonna, end right here for right now. And oh no, I wasn't keyframing. Oh, I was. No, let's see. Keyframe. Scroll back. We'll go back. We want to be high, but not. There we go. That's fine. Starting there, going in there. Make sure the shot's is long enough. Cool. And then we would potentially want to bring in a let's see. I didn't do that. I need to unpilot. This is a good thing to do. You need to unpilot it so it doesn't drag it around. There you go. Now you can watch it do its thing. There we go. I'm not 100% sure, but where we're going to put all these things. Let's go ahead and make a level called sequence 2. Maybe that's what we need to be doing. As we'll make an empty level. And it's going to be called sequence 02. All right, now it's all becoming clear. Sequence O2 sequence. Inside the sequence, we'll have a subscene track. And that subscene we're going to bring in is our city. And then we'll have a camera cuts track for it that brings in the city sequences camera. Lock in place. And then this is our middle level, and this is where we put our level visibility track. And for our intents purposes, we'll say that this is the city visibility. And then we'll add the city. Yes, properties. Visible, city. City visible. Alright. So let's do this from the top. We're going to save everything. I thought I already named this one, but we'll do assets. Maps. And we'll call this sequence O2. Going back to our top level. Main master. There we are. Come over here. We know that this first track actually takes 10 seconds long. So you see if I actually expand it, it still has more. Or does it? Or does it? Let's go inside of it. Let's expand this to full length. Make it a full 10 seconds. You see if I'm adjusting these. So this one I can't adjust because that's up above. Let's see. That's where it's down below. Let's see. There, that one's down below. Just cleaning it up a little bit. And this one goes for 10 seconds. Lock it in. Space, the final frontier. Boom. This is 10 seconds. And then this is 10 seconds. So now let's go back up, save all. And then at 10 seconds in, 10 seconds in, let's add in the next one, which is our sequence O2. Or it could be shot O2. That might be the more preferred nomenclature. And you see now, it cuts to the next one. So hopefully that's starting to make sense, right? This is obviously not the transition we want, but this is the format for everything. And then all these tracks, we just continue to extend these on ad nauseum. And so this track is its own 10 seconds long. And you see it's a little bit of work, but it's not too much work just to continue to expand these. But this is why it's good to have maybe a rough draft of like a script that's already been read, or a song or something, so you can kind of lay out everything and then adjust the cameras to match, instead of having to write a song to the cameras. But both ways are possible. Subscene, and there we go. So if we wanted to animate anything in this level, we would animate these items or make them toggle visibility off and on right now. And then if we wanted to do different levels, for instance, I'm actually interested in potentially turning the room back off tune on, so that like if you're trying to make a VR piece, you'd want to have as little geometry as there as possible. So we'd make it its own level, turn it off, and only when we got right here would we turn on the thing right before we went through the wall, kind of stuff. Does that make sense? So
Alright, I have a question.
Mhm.
So in the main sequencer, right, these visible sequences, 1, 2, 3, why do you keep, so for example, like the desert hasn't been called yet, so why do you need to keep it? Like, why does it still need to be, like, you can't move that?
because it's been loaded already, but it's been loaded.
Okay.
That is a weird thing, but all levels are loaded at the very beginning. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to. And the same thing was when I go down to this shot right here. Only because I drilled down from main sequencer can I see it. But if I open up, I could see all three of these from main sequencer. But if I load this up, like I was a second ago from here, I don't see them.
Oh, okay.
So I would need to then load city into this one. I think it's also because I'm building it kind of backwards. I've built it from the top, and usually the top is like one of maybe the last things I do. Because as we said, the middle level, which is our sequence 02, is our level of visibility, right? And city's loaded there.
Okay.
And then we need to lock it in to see what the camera's doing. Now I can see my city because it's one of my levels. If I hit play, I wouldn't see it because it's only loaded by blueprints. So as we add all the levels, always loaded. You know, the way the project normally works is that all levels are pretty much already roughed out in place before you even bother making a master sequencer. But since people are at different stages of the project, I just want to kind of start with the general structure first, because there's not that much guidance on this, and it's just kind of crap that we invent as we go along because it's functional. So that kind of brings us to an hour and a half. I didn't really want to make this a long and tedious thing, but I want to give everyone a way to go ahead, move forward, and go ahead, and a structure, which I think this is going to be super helpful. So, you know, we can go a few more moments and maybe talk about, like, again, you have your desert level, Marianne. So if we go back to our diagram, we know that the desert is on sequence 03. Like, I should probably, like, write down the word sequence 03 right around here. So let's make a map for sequence 03. Again, this should be shot 03, but that's fine. Sequence 03. And save all these. And it has both the tunnel and the desert. Alright, so the tunnel. We don't have the tunnel yet, or maybe it's called something else. Here's this one. Alright, and to start off with the cinematics, you have a desert right here.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's see what we do. We will create a.
Those were just test shots, so I don't know if we actually need them though.
Okay, well we don't have to delete them. That's fine. We just don't load it in. You know, you can make multiple movies with the same assets. Let's go ahead and change the streaming method so it's always loaded, and see it's a sub level. But we're going to be working with our main level, and we want to make sure. And desert's at the very beginning, so let's make our new cinematic. From assets to sequencers, and this will be sequence 03. sequence 03. And we could do the same. We know that there's going to be well, let's go ahead and make it like longer. Let's make it like 20 seconds so we're not having to drag things out constantly. Alright, so we're going to have a level visibility, right? Because we're at the middle level. So this would be the desert visibility. And add desert to it. When you get the name, cool. Add it in. We know that we want a camera cuts, and then we know that we want to have a sub scene, and then we know that the sub scene could be your desert. But if we open up desert now, and so just to prove a kind of a point, even though we don't have the tunnel yet, let's say the tunnel takes another 20 seconds. What we would actually do, and we want this to end at 20, we would come out to the end, and so we want to make the track first, and then we could split it up. At 20 seconds in, I could say edit, split, and on the right side, it's hidden. And we make another level visibility track. And this one could be tunnel. Rename tunnel. And then before we split it up, we'll put the name of the tunnel in there. I don't know what that is, but we can always rename it to B tunnel. Hit enter, and then tunnel at the same moment will be split as well, and then on its left side it's invisible. And if we had some sort of transition map, we can add another track here, because remember, the middle level is all about transitions. What did I just do? Oh, there you are. I call this one rename it and call it transition visibility, because it might be multiple levels for transitions. Transition visibility, and this could be like a map that just has a cloud in it, or just has a building in it, or a piece, or a fire, or something, so that it can help be like the band-aid for your transitions. You just say
misspelled if that matters.
Hmm?
It's misspelled if that matters. Transition. You're missing an R. Maybe it doesn't matter.
transition. You know, this is continuity. It wouldn't matter, but it might as well. Alright, so let's give it a name, and we would call this one, we haven't made it yet, but let's say we needed a sequence 3 transition, we might just call this one, we'll call it transition level, sequence 03. We're kind of inventing this naming convention, TL. There you go. And so it might just be on split for a moment as a band-aid to help us make that transition. Alright. Cool. And so what are the things we said we wanted? We said we wanted to have transitions, level visibilities, and subscenes. Is that everything? Level visibility, transitions. Oh, and music once we have music. Music could be either here or the next level down. So sequence itself is not going to have a camera in it. Desert's going to have the camera in there. And you already have one, so let's go ahead and bring it in. It can always change to be something else. So that one was called Desert. Makes sense to me. And then we'll make sure that we can lock into that camera. So is your sequence has a bunch of cameras?
Yeah, because I made like 3 clips. I don't remember which one. You can choose one.
I'm gonna think about how to do this real quick, so we're not being redundant with our time. Let's see. I think am I doing too many camera cuts? Because if you already have camera cuts in yours, there's no point in reinventing the wheel. Bring them all in. Stop. Because then if we brought in yours as a shots, it would work, right? Let's see. Circular. Oh, because shots has the geometry. Okay, has all the other stuff in there. Okay, so so 3, and that goes to the desert. Brings it in. I really think we should resolve this. This is circular because it would bring in its own cuts. So let's delete that. Now let's go back up, and let's see if we can bring a shots into this one, and bring in desert. Cool. So this will bring in your whole thing. So that's kind of the difference, is that shots will bring in a sequence of shots, and then if we had just a single camera cuts, we could do that. So okay, I'm fine with both. So if we have a sequence of cuts, it's shots. If we have an individual camera, it could be camera cuts. We could come up with the idea of whether or not we need to have a camera cuts at the mid-level. That could be determined. Because now we have a camera cuts just at the lowest level. Maybe that makes more sense. And then we'd only need a camera cuts potentially if like we had to do a transition camera or something. So let's do that. Cool. So again, now we have all that aligned. I'm going to save it all. Come back to the master. And then once we load in the sequencer, and the trick here is, why is it not loading anything at the beginning? Because I literally turned off these eyeballs and said save. And just that's all it is. I made sure these eyeballs are off, I hit save, and it opens up empty. And then when I open up my sequencer, it'll still be empty besides whatever the sequencer is loading in. So now we have our city. Now we're like, why is our city not using the camera? We lock in. Now we're locked in. City. Let's go ahead and move forward and move to the next sequence. It's kind of snapping right there. And we bring in sequence 03. There we go. And you see how the project unfolds. So let's go ahead and bend this out to the very end. And take these all out to the very end. Oops. And I think that gets us to a good spot when we see how you make the entire piece. So everyone wants to kind of continue on through. If whoever wants to do additional camera work, if you're doing one camera work and you didn't like create the scene, let that person know who has that map. And then if that person who made the map is no longer working the project, let us know. We'll start making a roster of everyone who's still working on the project. Cool. Alright, so I'm going to stop the OBS.